Possibly one of the most important artifacts in Scrum is the product backlog. The product backlog is really the to-do list. It is the list of all the work that we want to get done. This could be in the software context, new functionality, enhancements, defect fixes, investigations, all the work that is going to get done or we'd like to have done is placed in the product backlog. The work is generally organized by priority, and that priority is derived from the importance or value of that backlog item. Now, just a bit of a diversion here. You've probably noticed we have a unique way of drawing our backlogs, and we have a reason for this. Most of you are familiar probably with a backlog that's shaped like this, sort of a stack of plates. This is how a backlog is frequently drawn in most textbooks. But we think that that's actually not a good way to represent a backlog. We in fact prefer this inverted model that looks like a rock crusher, because in some ways that's a lovely metaphor for the shape of a healthy backlog. If you think the items that we are out in the future are sort of like the big rocks, the big ideas that are large in scope but very, very abstract. And then as time progresses and as backlog items are getting ready to be implemented, they're much more fine-grained, finer grain in scope, and also much more concrete. So this is why we've adopted this rock crusher model, because we think it's a little bit more revealing and indicative of how a backlog should really function, rather than the so-called stacked plate model. The product backlog represents everything that we would like to have the team do. Now, the rules of the backlog are very simple. If it's not in the backlog, it is not going to get done. We'd like to believe that there is no off-balance sheet work done by the team. The only work that the team should be working on is work that they've pulled from that backlog. Now, that said, it doesn't necessarily mean that if it's in the backlog, it's going to get done. We always will have far more work than the team could do. The point of having a backlog and a product owner is to prioritize that work such that we're always working on the most valuable items. So even though we're not going to get everything done, we're going to get the most valuable work done. And that brings up our product owner. The product owner owns this backlog. They own it in terms that they have final say on how the work is prioritized in that backlog. They keep the backlog visible to everyone. Remember our Scrum values about openness. The backlog is visible to everyone. There is no hidden agendas. There's no off-balance sheet work. All the work that the team may do is in that backlog. The backlog is prioritized by value. This means that even though we're not going to necessarily get all the work done in that backlog, we will get the most valuable items done. So given the time and effort the team invests, we will work on the highest value items. It's a living list. This is why we have the backlog, is that we're constantly reworking, reprioritizing to be able to take advantage of new knowledge as the team works on backlog items. This is one of the hallmarks of Agile, that we're able to pivot, and the backlog gives us the means to pivot. That when we learn something as a team is making progress on getting the job done, we can reorganize, put new items into the backlog, remove existing items, and reprioritize the backlog such that we're always working on the highest value items.